Nigeria's crude oil production dropped by 1.37 million barrels per day last month from 1.39 million barrels per day, according to a survey by S&P Global Platts. The country's oil production in October was 261,000 barrels per day, below the quota given to it by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies. According to the report, Nigeria's oil output continues to be hamstrung by operational setbacks, with key pipelines facing persistent sabotage. It's noted that Bonny Light, Escravos and Focados had all faced production issues in 2021, while output of other key grades such as Kwa Iboi, Brass River, Adani, Akpo and Egina had also remained consistently low this year. OPEC and its allies, called OPEC Plus, boosted crude oil production by 480,000 barrels per day in October, according to the latest S&P Global Platts survey. But only half of the group's members actually increased output last month, as many in the coalition were struggling to pump as many barrels as they had promised. Incidentally, OPEC's 13 countries pumped 27.55 million barrels per day, up to 260,000 barrels per day from September, while Russia and 8 other partners added 13.66 million barrels per day, up to 220,000 barrels per day. Now, what is the impact of the production decline on current and future fiscal responsibility of Nigeria? This is our focus today. I am Lekan Onabanjo, standing in for Tolulokpe Adeleru Balogun. Welcome. This is Business Edge. And joining me on Business Edge is Samuel Oyekanmi, who is a research analyst at Nairametrics. Samuel, thanks for joining me on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right, beautiful. Now, well, Samuel, this is not the first time that Nigeria failed to meet our obligation when you talk about oil production output. The question is it actually based on the lack of adequate infrastructure, or there are other things that we are not seeing from our own standpoint?
Nigeria have been unable to meet up with the OPEC quota for the past few months, despite the fact that OPEC Plus in their last 2 meetings had increased production by over 400,000 barrels per day. One of the major problems is that our rig counts in Nigeria, we have issues restarting them. So one of the major problems is that whenever there's volatility in the price of crude oil, most of these crude oil explorers in Nigeria, they tend to stop production because by the time they check their bottom line, they realize, it's not favorable, considering that the prices of crude oil may be selling at around $40 per barrel, $55 per barrel. So in some cases, they have to stop some of their plans while maybe they have about 5 rig counts. Some of them would decide it becomes quite hard to restart some of these plans when these, like for example, when OPEC has increased production like they did 2 months ago. So yeah, that's one of the major reasons. Another one is vandalism. Most of these companies have been suffering from some vandalism, especially in the Niger Delta, where some of their pipelines have been busted and destroyed by hoodlums and so majorly, those are one of the major factors that has affected our production quota over the year.
Now, in terms of dollar revenue, well, the margin seems to be a bit close considering the oil price, which is said to be rising and could rise to about $100 per barrel. Well, that is the projection for next month. But then, could this actually lead to more borrowing? Or do you think Nigeria has the capability to woo more investors?
I think the last time we had the discussion around this area, and I said that Nigerian oil market does not really present itself as a sector that is able to attract as much investment as we want, which going by the numbers from capital inflows shows that oil and gas is not one of the viable sectors that attract foreign investment. But that being said, considering the rally in the crude oil price, we as much as it's an advantage for us, which means more foreign exchange in terms of crude oil exports. It's also a big problem because we are also dependent. We also import. In fact, petrol is there accounts for over 11% of our total imports on a quarterly basis. So it tells you a lot that as much as the crude oil price is rallying, landing cost of petrol is also going to go up, and we are going to also be paying. We're going to be suffering to an extent as regards this rally. So as much as it's a good one, it's not necessarily all good. It's not all good.
All right, Samuel, let's look at this issue. Now, force majeure is declared to look like force majeure is declared a lot by oil majors, that is the major oil players in the industry, mostly when it comes to issues of sabotage. When sabotage is involved, well, of course, when it comes to oil production. But then when you look at the issue of infrastructure, which is not properly maintained or replaced as at when due by these major oil players. Now, are there any penalties for them? Is there any law mandating that they must maintain and manage their infrastructure, or there are certain penalties that will be meted out to them if they default on this?
Yeah, my sense is right now I can be very sure, but I can say to a large extent that there's supposed to be a mandatory law that says that these items, machineries are supposed to be maintained. However, like I said the last time, we have a knack for not taking care of some of these machineries, and then these areas where we exploit, where the upstream players operate, is quite known. It's known for destruction and vandalism of oil materials. So here we're not surprised. Well, and it's not really fully on the part of the private sector players. I think it's more of it has to be a partnership. As much as the private organizations, the upstream players, are working in line in order to ensure the safety of their operations. The government also has a huge part to play. Of course, there has to be laws that enforces maintenance. But do we have do Nigerians have the goodwill to follow up? And then, do we really enforce these laws? When we used to creating laws, but we do not go as far as enforcing them, which has over the years made Nigerians have this laxity towards public-owned operations.
All right. Well, Samuel, of course, we have issues of maintenance culture and all that. But then you also mentioned one issue which has to do with pipeline vandalism. Whose fault is it? Is there something that we can do to nip it in the bud? Is it as a result of negligence, or maybe on the part of the major players, the Nigerian government, or the host communities where exploration is being carried out? What is actually the problem when it comes to, or the major cause of factors attached to pipeline vandalism that we have not been able to bring an end to?
Okay, my take is it's a chain reaction, because the host communities also believe that they are fighting for what they deserve. So over the years, they clamored, even for previous administrations, said that these oil companies that you carry out exploration on our lands, we are causing oil spillages. We ought to be getting dividends for this, because at the end of the day, oil spillages will not allow them to carry out the natural course of businesses, for example, farming, rearing of animals, and so. So it makes them vulnerable in terms of being productive in other areas of the economy. Hence, they tend to always only rely on oil proceeds, and that is evident from figures when you look at the IGR and the FAC allocations to oil producing states. So yeah, the host community believe that they ought to be given as much, more than any other area in the country, while the company also have in the past not been doing well to cater for their host community. But I think that is already changing now, because we're already seeing a slight tilt towards an attention towards those host community. Although we the last time the governors from the oil producing states complained about the PIA signed by by Buhari, saying that the proportion allocated to host communities is not enough for them and stuff. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and we could probably be seeing a change going forward. At the same time, we really cannot control the minds of people because we are also naturally greedy. So even when the companies and the upstream players decide to do a bit for the host community, it's really not an assurance that the host community or those people who vandalize these properties will change. Then the government comes into play. So the government comes in terms of security to ensure that they protect the lives and properties of these companies exploring in this region. Because at the end of the day, it is good for us because the more they explore, the more foreign exchange we get from our crude oil exports. And which right now in Nigeria we so much depend on in order to foot our administrative bills.
All right, Samuel, we get to link up back with you. Just stay with us for a while. But then it's quite interesting that Nigeria's crude oil production is dropping. Well, according to reports, it dropped to 1.37 billion barrels per day last month. Samuel mentioned a couple of factors that resulted into that. But then when you look at some other countries like Saudi Arabia, that is said to be pumping about 9.79 million BPD, that is barrels per day in October, the highest level since April 2020, amid burgeoning demand for its crude. Now, you begin to ask the question, what are major global oil producers like Saudi Arabia doing right that Nigeria is not? Are there deliberate steps to be taken to rev up production in the country? Well, we get to find out more from our guests after this break. It's Business Edge. Do stay with us. Still with me on Business Edge is Samuel Oyekanmi, a research analyst at Nairametrics, and we've been taking a look at Nigeria's oil production output that fell by some measure in October. Now, Samuel, I would love you to be critical about this. Nigeria is projecting oil production of 1.88 million barrels per day in the year 2020. The question is this actually achievable with the current of infrastructural deficit that we are experiencing in the country?
So objectively, going by the recent trends, no, we're not. But when you go back some weeks, we also learned that the stated that Nigeria needed about $2.7 billion investment in our oil sector. So yeah, if Nigeria could present itself in such a way that is going to attract other foreign upstream players into this sector, we could see ourselves getting as close at least 1.6, 1.7 million barrels per year. We could get to that level if we are able to attract more players. But as of the current level where we are with our current infrastructure, I don't see us exploring that much. I don't see us producing that much in the next year.
Well, that's quite interesting. In realistical terms, you're telling us that Nigeria cannot make up to 1.88 million barrels per day. But when you look at countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Russia, and even Kazakhstan, who are actually pushing up oil production. So you begin to wonder, is there something that they are doing as major players that Nigeria is not doing? And of course, are there any deliberate steps that you think Nigeria can take when it comes to revving up production in the country?
Okay, so when you compare Nigeria with other countries of the world, I'd really say putting them side by side is really far-fetched. So Nigeria has, over the years, enjoyed a bullish run of petrol in about 15, 20 years ago, before the downturn in the global crude oil market. So our production level at that point was okay for us because it served us. We're able to generate as much revenue. In fact, we practically moved from other sectors of the economy towards oil. So yeah, we lived a comfortable life during the bullish crude oil tenor. But as of the time when the prices of crude oil came down, it dawned on us that we're not getting enough as much, and that was our main source for revenue. So we had to push production. So the only way to increase forex revenue would be to increase production since the price is going down. But then our infrastructure were not designed to produce this much at the initial stage. So yeah, it becomes a problem because now we want to increase output, but we do not have infrastructure to deliver. But then, if you are asking what we need to do to ramp up our efforts to produce more, so one of them is to, which I already said earlier, is to attract more players into the sector. If we are able to attract more players, now how we do that is subjective in various ways because various analysts would come up with different analytical economic solutions for Nigeria, and then it's quite debatable because, of course, we would always come up with different things. So, however, the method that we use in attracting investment, in this case, foreign, most especially, it depends on the economic regulators and governments, how they do that. Some analysts have suggested, devalue the Naira, so exchange rate is attractive for foreigners to come in. But the truth is, even the CBN sell forward rates to foreign investors at a higher rate to also attract them and incentivize them in investing in the country. So yeah, we don't know if that's a possible incentive to attract this foreign investment, or if it is to remove subsidy and use this fund to invest heavily in infrastructure. Well, that is also debatable. That would also increase inflation and cause a lot of things to go on the high. So yeah, but however, what matters is that the government should find a way to increase the amount of players in this sector. So when we have more players, we'll be able to, of course, they would also come with their own infrastructure, new technical know-how, be able to ramp up and produce more, at least in the short to medium term. We'll see ourselves million barrels per day. Although over the past few years, we've had the Minister of Finance say, we have the ability to produce about 1.8 to 2.1 million barrels per day. But unfortunately, we have not been able to achieve that over the course of the past few months. So yeah, if we are able to attract foreign players, more fresh money with their new technical know-how and infrastructure, we'll see ourselves going up higher, producing more in the short to medium term. But if we don't get to do that with the current infrastructure that we have and our knack for not maintaining these amenities until when they get totally bad, I don't see us going producing as much as we want to.
Well, that's quite interesting, I must say. But then I don't know if you've noticed, fuel queue is said to have hit Nigerian roads for some days now. We talk about Abuja, some remote parts of Lagos. Meanwhile, the NNPC has come out to deny and debunk the so-called rumor that there is no fuel scarcity, there won't be fuel scarcity. But then the question is, do you think marketers are trying to force some sort of increase in fuel price? What do you think this will play out or would eventually happen when it does? If it does happen, then definitely, what do you think that will mean for Nigerians? We are moving towards the festive period. What do you think that would mean for Nigerians if we decide, or if marketers decide to increase the prices of fuel? That is one. Now, the other part is, do you think DPR is doing enough to sanction oil marketers, distributors who in some sort of form might be hoarding this commodity?
Okay, so to confirm your statement, yeah, in most areas, in other areas of Nigeria, Abuja, Kano, even as close as Kwara State, yes, there was long queues and some filling stations were not selling fuel. I had a personal experience, so I saw that, and I wondered, we are going into Yuletide, and it has almost become a norm in Nigeria. So when you get close to December, there's always fuel scarcity, increase in price of fuel, and hoarding. And here, the NNPC have come to say, yeah, there's fuel. We have about 1.7 billion liters in stock, and then we still have about 2.3 billion liters coming in. So yeah, there won't be increase. But then, when you look at from where we're coming from, the positive rally in the crude oil market means that the landing cost of petrol is going to increase. And then, for most of these marketers, when they consider the fact that the landing cost is almost equivalent to the selling price, they tend to be discouraged in selling the fuel, and which would cause them to hurt them because they also want to keep them in case there's an increase in the future, although it has been stated that there's no increase in the future, but they really can be assurance for the marketers and the fueling station. So hence it tends to discourage them from selling. And then when you look at the fact that the petroleum equalizing fund that was put in place in order to ensure a level of equity or equality in the price of crude oil around the country, we'll notice that the cost of transportation because the past few months has surged significantly. And then if the landing cost and your selling cost at the end of the day is already higher than this fund set aside to actually quench or to actually subsidize for these marketers in terms of their costs and transportation costs in moving fuel from some areas of the country to their station. It's not enough to accommodate that. They tend to feel discouraged also. That's the term they call margin. So I was talking to a fuel expert, and he had to explain to me that when the margin is slim for these fuel oil marketers, they tend to not want to sell as much. And then when you look at the road, the roads are terrible. You see tanker drivers having to park, especially when you go to your
all right, so Samuel, you might have to wrap up now because we're short of time.
Okay, yeah. Road also is one of the major factors why the fuel are not getting to some areas of the country, and this has actually discouraged, caused a little bit of supply glitch.
Okay, thank you so much, Samuel Oyekanmi, for joining us on the program. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so there you have it. Well, according to the S&P Global Platts report, Nigeria's oil output is being stifled by operational setbacks, with key pipelines facing persistent sabotage, not forgetting poor maintenance or refurbishment of dilapidating infrastructure. On the sides, big players like Saudi Arabia, Russia, United Arab Emirates, you talk about Kuwait and even Kazakhstan are said to be pumping out large volumes and cashing out. Well, maybe it's time for the Nigerian government and its partners to sit up and address the challenges squarely and intentionally, or sit tight as other countries take the driver's seat in terms of production. Well, you've heard it also from Oyekanmi, what he has said, and well, definitely there's so many things that needs to be done if only it can be done well. We go for a short break right now. When we return, it will be time for NC4 to watch. Do stay tuned. You're welcome to NC4 to watch. Even as we take you through some 4 developing stories that you can watch out for within the business spectrum. Let's start by telling you that Ghana's Deputy Energy Minister said that he recognizes the need for an energy transition, but still strongly believes that gas will be an important source of energy going forward. Ghana discovered oil in 2007 and began production at the end of 2010, boosting economic growth to around 14% the following year and raising hopes of a bonanza. Let's also tell you that Ugandan High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ambassador Nelson Ochega, has announced that 6 Nigerian companies have indicated interest to invest in the country's oil and gas industry. Ochega made this known at the ongoing 2021 Lagos International Trade Fair. He said Uganda was set to produce its first oil as early as 2025, and production in the next 5 years was expected to jump to 230,000 barrels per day from zero in 2021. Elsewhere, Zimbabwe is researching ways in which cryptocurrencies can be legalized for payment services, according to retired Brigadier Charles Wikwete. a Computer Society of Zimbabwe summit. Now, he noted that global authorities are still exploring policy development when it comes to crypto assets, saying they remain vague since they are a fundamental departure from previously known financial instruments. And finally, Vodacom Group has announced that it will acquire a co-controlling interest along with Remgro and New GX Capital in a new entity made up of assets including Vumatel and Dark Fiber Africa. On completion of the transaction, Vodacom will hold a 30% equity interest in a newly formed entity called Infraco that will house the Dark Fiber Africa and Vumatel assets, as well as certain fiber assets which Vodacom will contribute into the new business. And that's it on today's edition of Business Edge. Do not forget that you can join the conversation by going to all our social media platforms, that is at News Central TV. You can drop a comment there so that we get to feel your pulse. Do not forget that you can also visit our website, www.newscentral.africa, and you can download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. See you next time. My name is Lekan Onabanjo.